Hello, welcome back to the Three Orcs channel. This is David, and today I decided to do a separate video from my live stream, and this is about a very important topic for anybody running the Temple of Elemental Evil campaign. Not just running the campaign from the module, but turning this module into an epic open sandbox type campaign where you bring in the entire world around Nulb and Hamlet, which includes the city of Verbabog, Valuna, Furandi, the Viscounty, Selene, the Lortmill Mountains, the Cron Hills, the Gnarly Forest, the Wild Coast, and Divers. So this is pretty much the play area. And no matter what the players do or where they go, this campaign has a lot to do with the activities of the Temple of Elemental Evil leaders and their agents, because they're collaborating with all the bad guys in the area. Hedrack, the Supreme Commander of the Temple of Elemental Evil, and he's also the mouth of Uas. They decided to stage the second rising of the Temple of Elemental Evil, and they're going to do it smart this time. Just in case you noticed, I always repeat myself on every video about all this because you never know when you might have new viewers watching my channel. So this is a project of 7 years, ongoing 7 years of integrating the original module, Temple of Elemental Evil, and the World of Greyhawk by Gary Gygax, and Living Greyhawk locations, NPCs, and organizations, because they really did a good job of flushing the world out. This is what Gary Gygax intended you as a dungeon master to do. He even states that in the DM notes in the module, and every module actually. So he gave you 4 locations on Nulb to start with, and he expected you to create more and go. And also there's other outposts out there besides the Mo House. So Lareth, he's in charge. He's from the Greater Temple, and he's also a secret agent of Loth. He has the Mo House, and he's raiding from there with his bandits and bringing supplies and prisoners back to the Temple of Elemental Evil through the hunting cabin and the secret tunnel down to the 3rd level. And I have a whole nother map for that. You can watch that video too. And that map is free on the Patreon or my Discord, Three Orcs Discord channel, or I also post this on Facebook too. I put a lot of work into this campaign. There's a lot of, not just maps, but there's menus to all the taverns in the entire world. I've created 14 villages so far, just like the village of Hamlet. Fully detailed out with all the NPCs, treasures, and the guards, and the leadership, and the organizations, and everything you need to know with flavor text and dialogue and quest, you name it, it's all there. It's a lot of material. So this way, you'll be prepared. So no matter what the players do, no matter where they go, they're going to be engaged with that area fully flushed out, ready for you to use so you don't get caught flat-footed. And it's all pointing back to the Temple of Elemental Evils one way or another, because they're all in bed with them, actively engaged with the agents to help the rise of the temple and make a profit off of it. So there's even some lords from the city of Verbabog and Divers involved. The greed gets them hooked. And this pretty much brings the Game of Thrones to the Temple of Elemental Evil, like a combination of that for a campaign world. So today, I wrote a new article that I thought would be very useful. So as you all know, I write modules for the Dungeon Masters Guild, and so far on there is the village of Sheernub, the human elf gnome village of Ostverk on the southern border of the Viscounty, and Selene, the Fey Kingdom of the elves. Nulb is almost done being rewritten again, for much better this time around, with more tied into the world as a campaign. It's more tighter, and it's not so fantastic over-the-top ideas. It's more concrete, related directly to the activities of the temple and the different specific agents in the temple. Also, I wrote articles about the logistics of what the temple's up to and the recruitment. There's articles about logistics. Everything you need to know to run this world is there on the World Alpha website called the Verbabog Campaign Guide 576 Common Year. Now, you're supposed to run this module in the 579 Common Year, which states in the module, but this is the World of 576 Common Year for a couple of reasons. That's the default timeline for the World of Greyhawk by Gary Gygax, and it's also easily most searched term on the internet to find my website, because everybody's typing in 576 Common Year. So I decided to create another article about what the temple's up to, and this is very interesting. Now, you have a lot of factions, at least 7. You got the Greater Temple, you have the 4 minor temples, fire, earth, water, and air. You have the couple bandit gangs in Nulb, and also the bandits of Smigmol in the Broken Tower. You got the bandits in the hunting cabin with their leader and control access point to get supplies into the temple. You have at least 2 or 3 pirate ships coming to Nulb, One's a slaver from the Wild Coast, directly connected to the A series modules. You have also another pirate that's pretty much the captain leader of all the pirates of Nulb. And his lover owns the Boatman's Tavern, and they also have a warehouse there. So as you can see, this logistic thing is very important. It would be good for the dungeon master to fully grasp and understand how it all works. That way, when your players start poking around and finding out things, you're going to have very reasonable, logical explanations and descriptions of what's going on. And when they question any of these pirates or bandits, you'll know what those bandits and pirates know. There's also a wing right across the bridge from Nulb, and that's on the high and low road coming into Nulb. And so that's where the wagons go with the bandits, because they're delivering loads of loot, gear, supplies, and prisoners from the moat house in the Viscounty. They're also raiding up and down through the gnarly forest, the main merchant roads to Divers and to Wild Coast. So that's another thing. And that's another bandit group doing that called the Crimson Reapers. And they're based out of Divers. And that's from the Living Greyhawk group. And so I pull in a lot of things. I try not to make things just out of the blue, because it's not supposed to be my campaign where I just make stuff up. I try to get the concrete information as much as possible from the original lore books and source books and Living Greyhawk. Then only after all that, I consider all that before I'm making something up to add to the campaign, because I see a need, like the courier of the temple. There's a need for that. He's supposed to be contacting Xert, but there's no name, no description, nothing about him. So I actually had to create that character. That happens often in this campaign world, and you'll see that when you go to these different locations and organizations like the Gnarly Rangers and the Druids of the Gnarly, the Elves of the Gnarly, the Gnomes of the Greenway Valley, the Gnomes of Shirnob. There's an entire gnome clan in Ostberg that was never named or described. So I had to create that from scratch, an entire clan, to fit in with the lore of Ostberg from Living Greyhawk. Okay, so this new article. So I wrote an article to help you figure out, what do you do? How do you handle a holier-than-thou paladin or cleric like a Pelor or a Fultus or Heronius going into Nulb? Well, they're going to be murdered within 30 minutes, obviously. You can't just stroll into Nulb and say, you're all under arrest in the name of the Viscount. Line up while I take you in. That ain't going to happen. They're going to be murdered. And there's heavy hitters in Nulb. There's heavy hitters in the Temple of Elemental Evil. There's heavy hitters, pirates, bandits, their leaders, their assassins. It's a 10th level assassin running around from Divers. There's a lot of that going on in Nulb. Easily wipe out the party, and not just their NPCs, but all their followers, that whole organization that have like a dozen pirates or bandits with them too, and their sergeants. And there are other creatures at their disposal. The 4 minor elemental leaders, like Romag, Belsornig, Alrrem, they come into Nulb too for deals. Belsornig, the water temple, he comes to the Nulb and deals with the Boatman's Tavern. And Captain Tolub, he's a member of the Temple of the Water Elemental. And so he collaborates with Belsornig, Canon Belsornig of the Water Temple. And so they have a fort base raiding post along the river of Emridge Run, going up to the Belverdiver River. Romag of the Earth Elemental, he deals in the Waterside Hostel, and he's got a base out just west of Hamlet in the hills of the Cron Hills. It's an old abandoned monastery. These are dungeons I need to create. I'm getting to them so I can give them to you guys. The Air Temple, Kelno? Anyway, he has a base in even more west in the Cron Hills. He's got a tower, and they ride giant vultures. And then the last one is the Fire Elemental, the Alrrem Fire Temple. He's got a base at the top of the Edders, which is a small mountain range that's north of Hamlet. And these are based on Anna Meyer's maps from Living Greyhawk. So, like I said before, Living Greyhawk expanded this world greatly from the original module and the original world of Greyhawk. They added all these villages and these roads and more details to what a dungeon master is expected to do. You gotta remember, the original map is very base. It's only the key popular, the big geographical areas and the capital cities. You're not going to in the major rivers. You're not going to see any of the minor rivers. A lot of the roads you're not going to see. All the regular villages you're not going to see. And in medieval times, usually villages every 10 miles because merchant caravans can't really travel more than 10 miles a day. And that's where they stop for the night. And that naturally creates a village for protection. Anyway, back to Nulb. So Nulb, you're going to have a problem because it's a village of scum and villainy. And you can't have a shining light show up like Paladin of Pelor walk in, radiating the sun and arresting people. There's reason behind all this, how to deal with it as a dungeon master so it doesn't end up being a total slaughter and your inept players not figuring that out and just think they're going to walk into a dungeon and kill everything. That's not going to happen. This campaign is for experienced players. It is not for new players. Whenever I'm going to vet new players, I'll run them through like the B2 module, or I'll run them through like old school essentials modules like Hole in the Oak or the Incandescent Grottos. And I'll see what kind of players they are, see how serious they are about D&D, how engaged they get into it. If they're capable of actually being engaged and doing the type of role playing it's going to be required to play in this campaign. This campaign is going to take at least 2 years to run. You can't get to Nulb until you're at least 5th level. Or it'll end there. So basically this campaigns for experienced players that really want an in-depth, very deep campaign with the core game of Dungeons and Dragons, an actual Dungeons and Dragons campaign in the world of Greyhawk. That's what this campaign's for. It's hard to find players like that, but that's how it is. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and show you some stuff here. Let me get scooted on over. There I am. Okay, so this is a east map of the Viscounty. I have several maps. I have the big Viscounty map. I have the eastern and the southern maps. The eastern and southern maps are, each hex is 1 mile. There's a lot going on in this campaign to bring it to life. So Adam Meyer's maps don't zoom in far enough. So I found I needed to create these maps to get all these encounters and locations and dungeons, forts, outposts and stuff. So that's why I did that. I start my campaign in the city of Urbabank, and I use the Noble Ambitions module from Living Greyhawk to start the campaign at 1st level. And then they make their way east into the Gnarly Forest. And let me show you the DM view. There we go. So that's the Temple Ancient Soul ruins that you can see on the map there. And this is the Fenzator, and that's the Lizardman village that I added. So anyway, they go to this dungeon. By the time you're out of this dungeon, you're going to be 2nd level. Then I usually hit them south to follow up on the bandit activity rumors to find out what's going on in Hamlet. And then I usually sidetrack them from there to go help out. There's the Edders right there, just north of Hamlet. And that's that tower I was telling you about, the Scarlet Moon Hall. Right here is the Air Elemental Outpost, the Feathergale Spire. This is the water fort right here, Riverguard Keep. That's where the water temple's hanging out at with their pirate ships. And then farther south off this eastern map is some more stuff, including Hamlet. And there, of course, there's the Temple of Elemental Evil. And there's that hunting cabin that you can sneak into the secret tunnel. A lot going on in this campaign, a lot to explore, a lot to just get going. And I can go on for hours describing the premise and what to expect in this campaign. But I have a lot of videos about this that I go on and on about. So you can watch those videos too to get more details about the idea behind this campaign and what to expect from it. So let's go ahead and look at an article here. Okay, so this is Village of Nulb. All my villages are fully keyed. Every location, like every shop, every NPC has their own articles with artwork, just so you know. This article I wrote last night because the Dungeon Masters kept asking me, a lot of Dungeon Masters, they say, well, I'll just take my players into Nulb and whatever. No, they're going to get killed. He goes, what do you mean? I can play my Paladin. Paladins aren't stupid. Well, obviously you are if you're walking to Nulb like that. Because think about it. All those chaotic, evil NPCs and organizations, multiple bandit gangs and pirate gangs, temple agents, and other key leaders in Nulb, they're the enemy of any force of good coming into Nulb to disrupt their plans, their activities, the logistics. So obviously they're going to take them out. But I have a reasoning of why that won't happen. So a more logical reason. So I decided to write this article, a guide to running a Paladin or a Cleric in Nulb, and without breaking the Temple of Elemental Evil secrecy. So this is the premise. A Paladin or a Cleric from Luna, Furandi, Verbabank, arriving on Nulb is like a flare in the dark. That's what I was saying earlier. Every faction notices instantly. Normally, they would be marked for death, logically. But Hedrack, the supreme commander of the Temple of Elemental Evil, he has absolute orders. No unnecessary provocations, no martyrs. We do not draw the Eye of the West until the temple is ready. So that's the mistake they made the first uprising. They built this army and marched upon Verbabank, and they were put down by the forces of good. They gave the forces of good time to get together, band together, all, the Luna, Yurandi, the Viscount, the Elves of the Gnarly, the Druids, the Rangers, and the Elves of Selene. They all got together and put down at the Battle of Emerald Meadows, fought them back through Nulb, fighting retreat to the Temple of Elemental Evil, and laid waste to the temple, and then encased it with ruins to trap anybody in there, specifically the god Zugdamoy. So this makes the encounter a game of shadow politics. The Paladin is both a threat and an opportunity, and the factions react accordingly. Yeah, I bet you guys can guess where I'm going with this so far. So shadow politics. This is why I say this campaign is a mix between the Game of Thrones and Temple of Elemental Evil. You got to remember, there's lords involved too, from the city of Verbabank and divers. So there's a lot going on, a lot of agents out there. So I made a list. This is not an exhaustive list. It's just to give you an idea how you could maybe handle this. So Hedrack, the Supreme Commander, he has an agent in the field in Nulb, and he's under direct orders under Feldrin, the commander of logistics. And of course, he's under Hedrack. Her orders are to observe, mislead, and isolate that paladin. So Madame Salentis assigns spies to track the party and steer them towards red herrings, send them off wild goose chases, petty pirate feuds, false leads on splinter cells, and staged contraband bust. So obviously the pirates, there's more than just one pirate ship and bandit group. They are chaotic and lawful. So that's going to happen. That's expected, especially in the taverns, And so so they could stage that stuff easily and be believable. Also, false splinter cults. So it's possible, it's not unknown for a splinter cult from the remnants of the Battle of Emerald Meadows, the first uprising, to be out there. So if there was a raid from a fire elemental cult or something, and it would be first thing they would believe is that it's a splinter cult remnants of the past, and that they're doing their own thing up to no good, and they're trying to stir up trouble. All this stuff we're talking about is local problems. That's a local problem. The local authorities will handle it. Nulb has a constable. So so that's why Hedrack is very serious about making Nulb seem like just a town of scum and villainy on the borderland of the Viscounty. So the Viscounty, this is on the edge of the Viscounty in the Gnarly Forest and the Cron Hills. This is just ragged hills. It's not just a deep forest. It's both. With just to the north is that swamp, the Fenzator. So this is a very rugged land. It's a perfect brewing pot for chaos and illicit trade, because you're also at the intersection. I'll show you the map. We talk about this a lot in my other videos. That road goes to Divers right here. Another road from Hamlet goes to Wild Coast. This road to Divers also goes to the Wild Coast too, as soon as you get to past Twilight Falls. There's a lot going on. So this is a crossroads. So for bandits, right? So they're coming from the Wild Coast. They're coming from the Divers. They're preying on merchants up and down all these merchant roads in the Viscounty too. So you get all that. So let's get back to the article. So they basically, their goal is to waste the Paladin and his group's time, wear them down, make them report back that no temple here. That's the goal. Because that's what Hedrack wants. He doesn't want any idea going out there to any of the authorities of good to suspect any kind of uprising of the Temple of Elemental Evil. That's key. That's important. So that means they're not just going to murder a paladin when they walk into the village. Because if they did, that'll send up a signal to the forces of good. Something bad's happening here. They'd probably wait till he's well away from the village and ambush him there and kill him. Make it look like a bandit raid. Anyway, there's more about that in a second. And the Waterside Hostel. So Canon Romag, he's of the Earth Temple. He plays a genial outlaw innkeeper role. So he works through Dick Wrench, who's the owner of the Waterside, offers safe rooms and hopeful gossip. You know, those red herrings we're talking about. Watt is also a bartender there, but he's a Fire Temple spy. He uses bar talk to plant false stories about small cult wannabes in the swamps, distracting from the real logistics, the real logistic hubs, like the hidden hunting cabin, the old mayor's manor, places like that. Pier, the Nulb Pier docks. Romag avoids open hostility, but killing a holy envoy would invite trouble from Vervabank or anywhere else, really. Canon Belsornig of the Water Temple, he has connections with the Boatman's Tavern. Captain Nulb, he's an agent of the Water Temple, so they work together. And he's also the leader of the pirates of Nulb. Belsornig views the Paladin as a future liability, but also a way to throw suspicion at Romag. So the Water Temple and the Earth Temple are at odds. They're always fighting, and they want to eventually get on top when this is all said and done. They want to be the main temple leaders of the temple. They want to rise their cult to the top levels. Also, Captain Nulb's pirate crews, they might drunkenly pick fights, but under orders to lose believably, make the Paladin feel like they're winning battles while learning nothing of value. Yeah, he may leak minor leaks about smuggling routes until that leads to dead ends. Maybe a smuggling route going through the gnarly forest, maybe south, away from things that are happening. So that's a good idea. Smigmal, Red Hands, he's the commander of the Broken Tower at the Temple of Elemental Evil, the top level. She has a whole band of bandits under her at that tower, and they come to town in groups regularly. She has a lot of assassin contacts, and you can read her article too, because she comes from an assassin's guild in her past. All the characters' backgrounds are in their character articles, so you can learn all about them. She deploys assassins only if the Paladin gets too close to the truth. Her preferred tactic is staged bandit ambush outside of town to make the Paladin look incompetent, damaging the reputation with locals and the Paladin's order, like the Order of Fultus. All the gods and their orders and churches have all articles too on this website too, by the way, and their bishops. Smigmal uses her elven disguise, because he has that hat of disguise, to eavesdrop on taverns and engage the Paladin's intentions, which would probably be obvious. Okay, Commander Feldrin. Commander Feldrin is commander of temple supplies and logistics. He works with Giefried Petrus, who is in charge. He's the commander of the hunting cabin with a secret tunnel. And there's a barn and a cabin there, and that's where all the supplies go. You go through the tunnel to get into the temple. Can you imagine? You couldn't get wagonfuls of supplies to the top levels of the temple. It'd be too obvious. That'd be too much attention drawn to the ruins there. So that's why they use the secret tunnel. So anyway, he keeps all temple supply movements hidden while the Paladin is staying in town. He may even delay shipments through the hunting cabin to avoid risk of exposure. So this is a good example of my pop-ups. You can see a quick pop-up of every location NPC, and if you scroll to the bottom, you can read the full article, and they'll pull it up with all their artwork and stuff. I even put charts in these articles too to help you. I know how you Dungeon Masters like charts, so I always try to put charts in all my stuff. So as you can see, there's even DM notes. There's a lot here. Feldrin has no interest in direct confrontation. He values efficiency and secrecy over proving a point. I have a logistics article. It explains how the supplies get around to the docks, to the boatman's warehouses, to the old mayor mansion, through the Rainright of Nulb location across the river. The bandits bring their wagons in, and she's responsible, and her men, to get the supplies to the secret tunnel. So they divide the duties of all these organizations so they don't know too much to cause trouble. Okay, so here's an example of running the stay at Waterside Hostel. Day 1, immediate quiet observation. A lot of these locations I have flavor text and dialogue, by the way, so I can help you role play these places, bring it to life. Locals pull back, conversations stop when the Paladin walks in. Dick Rents plays a friendly host. Watt listens more than he speaks. Day 2 and 3, controlled encounters, minor brawl, petty thefts, smugglers hinting at splinter cults far from Nulb, These are designed distractions. They want this place to seem like wretched hive, a scum and villainy, bandits and pirates. That's all that's going on here. It's no world-shaking things are happening like the rise of this Temple of Elemental Evil or any kind of god situation. Day 4 and on. If the Paladin does stay too long, factions coordinate to frame them for unprovoked killing or theft, giving local criminals cause to pressure them to leave without directly attacking them. So here's some tools for maintaining your attention. Basically, a bunch of ideas here about constant surveillance, social pressure, like the rooms are mysteriously all booked up. There's no place to sleep. A few friendly locals just vanished. They just disappear. Things like that. Okay, then I got a section on misdirection through rivals. One of the most effective tools for factions of Nulb have been removing dangerous Paladin or Cleric without drawing heat is to weaponize their rivals. Hedrack's secrecy orders forbid open conflict with the holy envoys, but they say nothing about using them to dispose as disposable pawns against each other. So that's why. So these 4 minor temples, they got 4 outposts out there. Larth from the Greater Temple has the Mow House. And I already explained to you the other 4 temples and their outposts, and it's on the map too. Well, they could tip the players off to these different outposts, to their enemy, the location of their enemy's outpost. And most likely the players will end up going there and getting killed anyway, but at least it gets them out of Nulb. So maybe they'll think that's the Splinter Cult, and we solve the problem. We're all heroes. That's the end of the campaign until things escalate some more. I have another article I wrote about recruitment to the temple too. So they grow quickly. Each of them sees the Paladin's arrival as a chance to send an armed, righteously motivated enemy to the rival's doorstep, both removing a problem from Nulb and hopefully dealing a blow to another faction in the race for greater temple dominance. So this is how you handle a Paladin and a Cleric in Nulb. So how to run this at your table? Well, I got more advice for that. Casually seeding rumors, faction courting. The leaders' agents may approach the Paladin directly, offering coins, supplies, blessed gear if they deal with supposed cultists. Layered lies. So each faction uses partial truths. Built-in conflict. If the party attacks, they'll encounter genuine cultists, but from a rival faction of these splinter groups. Possible fallout. Upon returning to Nulb, the Paladin may be praised by their patron faction and unknowingly deeper in the faction's debt. So there's a lot of tricks you can pull on the players. Tavern hooks for misdirection. At the water side, I got some dialogue quotes you could use to help you, maybe just give you some ideas. Then I created a chart to help you with the faction leaders and their base-up operations and their misdirection target, who they target for their misdirection, their cover story, intended outcome, and more DM guidance at the bottom here. So there's a lot of useful information here. I didn't put too much dialogue in this article. On the right-hand side, I listed most of the related characters have anything to do with all this, but there's no way that's all of them. There's a lot more. The related organizations. No, you just put your cursor over it. It'll take you to those articles. If you click on it, it'll take you to the full article. Waterside. So these are related locations that have a lot to do with what we're talking about in this article, but it's still not quite all of them. So anyway, I hope you find this useful. This wraps up this video on the latest article I wrote for helping the Dungeon Master run the Temple of Elemental Evil in Nulb. We know a lot of the groups out there, they have holier than thou player characters like Paladins and Clerics and things like that. Most characters are easy to deal with because they're more motivated by loot and treasure and fame, much less support, much less their reverence to a god and a objective and a divine, much less devoted to a god and their divine mission and objectives. Well, I hope you like my video and I find value in this. You can find this article on my Verbal Campaign Guide 576 Common Year on World Anvil. That's free for everybody to use. It's public facing. Follows the watchy fan content policy for all you to use for free. A lot of these maps and artwork I put on my Patreon for free as well. But if you want a higher resolution version of these maps, you can print them up. You have to be a member to get those. You're also more than welcome to join the 3 Arcs Discord channel because I work on this daily, collaborating with all the other Dungeon Masters on the Discord channel writing this stuff up, and I had to review this stuff and make changes on the fly as we're talking about it. And also, we have another channel in there that talks about their campaigns as well. And we can answer the questions about their campaign suggestions, hear their ideas, and collaborate that way too.
Did you enjoy video? Consider tossing support on my Patreon. It's best way to support orcs. If you would like to see more content, subscribe and post comments below. It better not be bad.
I hope your players enjoy your campaigns as much as mine have. Thank you. Goodbye.